Have you ever felt like something is out of place? Like something around you isn't meant to be there? I don't know what a touch game means, but something just doesn't seem right. Like most things, this rabbit hole had to start with something. Touch football. It's a simple game with a simple premise. Football. I just realized that I never actually explained why this is weird. I'll show you a little clip of what touch football actually looks like.
Zabe, can you get in goal, please?
Oh yeah, give me a second, alright.
And that is the formula for every single touch game. It is the most lackluster game. I don't know why it is so popular. Anyways, back to the video. It's actually really popular, but when you start looking at who created the game, it gets a bit more complicated. It's owned by a group called Touch Games. This group has 8 games, all being touch games. Touch football, touch tennis, touch hockey, the list goes on. Touch Games is owned by MLPing 2012, who has even more of these touch games on his profile, some similar to the ones in this group, and some not so much. Nothing about this game empire is abnormal, until you look at the other touch games on Roblox, all with their own very small player bases. Let me introduce to you the next characters that appear down this rabbit hole. Captain Roy. This account owns 2 games, Touch Chess and Touch Elimination. The only group he's in is Touch Games, even though his account was made in 2014. Keep in mind, this account has the default Roblox avatar. Now we move on to Superlord199, clearly an active user. She owns multiple touch tennis games as well as volleyball. She isn't in the Touch Games group, however owns a group named Touch Games Club. Her account was made in 2018 and the rest of her profile is pretty normal. However, now we'll move on to the last piece of the puzzle, Papa Roblox. Donning the touch football shirt, he owns Touchdown, Touch Paintball, Hockey, Air Hockey, and a few more. His Roblox account has a YouTube channel linked to it as well, Touch Games. He's also an admin in the Touch Games Club group, as well as a developer in the Touch Games group. However, there is just one thing that I left out. MLPing, who I mentioned earlier as the owner of the Touch Games group, is friends with a lot of people on Roblox, but he is also friends with Captain Roy, not to mention Superlord, and even Papa Roblox. I think it's time we change our perspective on this. Here's what I find weird about this. Why isn't Captain Roy a developer in the group? Why isn't Superlord in the group in the first place? We already know who the ringleader is on this Touch Games empire, but something just ain't adding up. One of the weird things that should be pointed out again is that Captain Roy's account was made in 2014, but has a very modern version of Roblox's default avatar. This account doesn't seem to be active anymore, as it is only in one group and only has a few favorited games. Looking at his badges, most of the games there are quite old, however still have an active player base, so it's hard to tell if this is a stolen account or just an alternate. However, MLPing's account was made in 2019, so that idea isn't entirely in the picture. Now, Captain Roy's account doesn't have many badges overall, suggesting that it was used for a very short time at some point in the past 3 years. He also has some badges from newer games like Doors. Looking at the Wayback Machine, he only has 2 snapshots, both from 2024, however they don't give us any more information than we have right now. The 2 games under Captain Roy's profile are made in 2022 and 2023, which correlates with the Touch Game's success, because the original Touch Football was made in 2020, however many of the games after that were made in roughly 2022 and 2023. One last piece of information that makes me think this account may have been hacked or hijacked is one of its favorited games, Horror Stories 2, which is a horror game made in 2013, but the last update was in 2016. According to the Wayback Machine, it was privated sometime between 23 and 25. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for him to go back and play this game and favorite it unless it was during the time of its popularity, leading to my belief that this account has a high likelihood of being hijacked. And so, we've circled back to the start, And you probably are still asking, why does any of this matter? And truthfully by now, I don't really know. But there's just so many weird things that this subgenre of game developers do. For instance, why does MLPing have a copy of Touch Football, but the only difference is being slight game mechanics? And why does it have 700 people playing it at all times? Why does Papa Roblox own the Touch Sports game hub, even though MLPing is the one who owns the main group and all the games that are all popular? And even after all this time, all this investigating, I still haven't been able to answer the main question of this video. What makes these games so popular, and what actually is a touch game? No guys, the real touch game is the friends we made along the way.
Don't think about it, just move your body. Listen to the music, sing oh, eh, oh. Just move those left feet, go ahead, get crazy.